Hey friends, it's Shirley Bofstra from the Home and Family Show, and today I want to solve that problem you have. What do you do with your orchid after it's finished blooming? I know a lot of you just throw it away. You say, oh, it's dead. But take a look at how beautiful. Let me just tempt you into wanting to have more of this gorgeousness in your house. And it is important to learn how to coax your orchid to live a very long life and to bloom again, because sometimes you may receive one of these as a special gift and it has sentimental attachment. So it's pretty simple, guys, and here's the lowdown. Okay, so when you receive your orchid, it looks beautiful like this. It's important to understand what makes an orchid happy. Number one, look at this. An orchid in nature is not planted in the ground. It grows on tree limbs, on the crotches of branches. It is an epiphyte. It's a plant that does not need soil to survive. But at the same time, look at all of these roots. These roots are exposed in the tropical rainforest to the humid air so that it captures water and soaks water through here. Also the nutrients from the air, the nitrogen and everything, and also all of the decaying matter feed this as a natural fertilizer. And do you notice something? Look how the flowers actually bowed over. They actually grow almost kind of like a vine down. That's why we use stakes. Does that make sense? So now I want to give you some hope with your orchids once it goes from this to this. Okay, now you'll say, Shirley, I had a beautiful orchid, but it's dead now. Look at it. And I look at it and go, well, you know, the leaves are looking good. They're green. I see the nice little aerial roots. This plant, my friend, is not dead. What it is it has finished flowering. Now it's going to enter into its dormancy period. But it's the time when you really start to take care of your plant. When you have something like this at home, you just make sure you water it once a week and you put it in a bright room. But when you want to keep your plant for keeps, here's the first step. Number one, find a really good spot in your house, near a window preferably, where you get nice bright light, but not direct sunshine beaming on this. You don't want that. It will damage your leaves, and it's not a good thing. But the reason why it's good to be near a window, because it will have that ambient heat, and it's very important for an orchid to be in a room that's about 70 to 80 degrees. That's extremely important. But even more important than that, if you want this to rebloom for the next season, it needs to have a change in temperature at night. That means in this room, near this window, hopefully it will become 10 to 15 degrees less. Those are magic numbers, guys. 10 to 15 degrees less. And then what happens is this will then hasten to create more buds for the next season. So remember, put it near a window where it's bright, not direct sunlight, and make sure that the temperature changes from day to night by about 15 degrees. And then something you may want to do is you may want to trim any of the dieback from your stem, because an orchid could live 50 years. I know some of you just have it for like 5 days, but 50 years if you keep it going. So what we want to do is we want to cut around the 4th node. And if you want to take a close look at this, this is a node. This is where new growth emerges on the stem. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cut right above that node. What's going to happen is that when it's time for this to continue growing from the tip, it will create maybe 1 or maybe 2 limbs from where more buds are going to come. And so that is the important thing. I want you to notice something else. I have this pot on a bed of gravel. The reason for that is that's the other element that's very important for your orchid to be happy. It needs humidity. Now, if you're in a dry room, which most of us are, it does not give it enough humidity. So if you put it on a bedrock of rocks, you put some water in here, what happens is the water evaporates, so it creates a beautiful humid dome for your plant. That is how you're going to coax it back. Another thing that's really important, well, when you have a plant that's this beautiful, I've heard people say, what kind of orchid food should I feed it? Should I fertilize it? Well, I do suggest that you have a specific orchid food or something that promotes blooms and flowers, but this is not the time to fertilize your orchid. Not when it's in full bloom, friends. When it stops blooming, when you bring it over and you give it this ideal situation, that is when you want to put your orchid on a feeding schedule. Take a look at the instructions on your orchid food. If it says to give a certain amount per week or per month, cut it in half and then give it a week dose, but do it weekly. So they call it weekly. So a week dose weekly, so that every time you water it, it gets a little bit of food. And on the subject of watering, really important not to let your orchid stand or pool in water. Now, I told you to put it on little pebbles, but that doesn't mean that it has direct access to the water. The water is below the pebbles, but you don't want it, because what happens is these roots will pull up the water will sit around the root area and rot it. Not good. And that, it just defeats the purpose. So very important that when you do water it, you want to water it completely, which I mean just get the water through, make sure that it's coming out from the bottom completely, and if it starts to overflow, make sure to rinse it out. But you want to do that at least once a week. Once, twice maybe, but once a week. Full, nice watering, let go, do not get the leaves wet. Now, if you want to understand, once it starts to grow, maybe in a few months, the way an orchid blooms is important to know. First of all, take a look at this beautiful little orchid. It's got this long stem, got all these beautiful little buds. Well, the way it works is it starts to open from the bottom. So this was the first bud that opened up, then this one. Now this one is opening, and now we've got some more coming along. So this is important to know, because when you go out and you buy an orchid plant for yourself or as a gift, you don't want to buy one that doesn't have any buds. Because then what's going to happen is, as soon as these are tired, there's no more orchid flowers until next season, if they do what I just showed you and take care of it correctly. So that's a hot tip, guys, for when you buy your orchids. Make sure they've got buds. Again, don't throw away your beautiful orchid. Once it stops flowering, it's got life in it for many years. Some people have 50, 60 years with the same orchid being passed down in the family. They're gorgeous. They're works of art. So anyway, make sure it drops in temperature 10 to 15 degrees from day to night. Make sure it gets nice bright light, no direct sunlight. Make sure that it has humidity around it. Put it on pebbles and give it a little cut along the 4th node and fertilize it. Okay? A lot of work, but it's so worth it. And then, guess what's going to happen? Your orchid's going to rebloom again. And
no one is smarter than this chick.
Oh,
no
I
one.
love you.
I love
Okay.
you. I just wanted to bomb you.
I give you some money.
I love you, Shirley.
I give you money. I love you, Orly. She's so cute. Okay, guys. Got it? Now we know how to take care of our orchids, bring them back to life. Hey, if you like these tips and you want more, watch me on the Home and Family Show weekly on the Hallmark Channel. And you know what? Visit their Facebook page. And visit my Facebook page, Shirley Bobshaw's Garden World Report. Bye-bye.